I have a question for you. What do you think the best holiday is, but why does it have significance to you? It doesn't have to be your culture, just whatever works for you or what you find fascinating like me. When thinking about video ideas, I knew that it was going to be the wrong time of year to make this video, and that is exactly why I wanted to do it. Being born at the end of October could make me biased, but it could also just be because of the time of the year. Depending on where you are in the geograph of the world, October usually isn't known for being a very hot month of the year, so the temperature is just right. I'm able to walk outside and not have problems constantly trying to clench myself out of being too cold and wearing 6 layers because I am relatively underweight. If we look at the definition of a holiday from Britannica.com, we can see it says that there's a day of dedication to a religion, observance, or significance. But in the modern times, holidays will change and evolve or distort what they were originally from, becoming almost unrecognizable if a person from that time period traveled to today and saw how it evolved. On writingourfuture.org, it states that many traditions change as people move around the world. This makes sense, especially in the West, because the influence of many cultures has gotten into our daily lives without even thinking about them. The United States in particular has a lot of mixed cultures, as a lot of people move to the United States for various different reasons. The influence gets into cultures around us, including words and practices that we do, into our daily lives without even thinking about them. St. Patrick's Day, for example, which is around the time of me writing this, was influenced from Ireland's Catholic feast day, which, because of the Irish immigrants that lived in the US between 1820 and 1930, eventually transformed into Irish heritage and celebration, even if you're not Irish. Let's look at Christmas, for example, one of the most recognized holidays in the world, quite literally, but the history of it can be quite contradictory and complicated due to how widespread the influence of it has been for the past 1,000 years. The farther back in time we go to explain a holiday and its history, it becomes more and more difficult to understand the context and origination of what exactly happened to make a holiday the way it is to begin with. Santa, for example, only started to become a thing in the late 1500s, with his original name being Sinterklaas, based off of the real Christian bishop St. Nicholas of Myra. But the point of this whole video, in other terms, is to talk about why I believe Halloween is the greatest holiday, in my personal opinion. Hence, why I had to mention other holidays as well. But this is purely my opinion, and if you don't like Halloween, that's absolutely fine. It's subjective, I believe. And I would say Halloween is the greatest in the sense of the modern day. I think religion plays a huge role, speaking of which, how we see the world and interact with each other, and treating people of different religious practice in ourselves, which, as we all know, has had some issues, such as war, with people that have different beliefs than us. But unlike Christmas or Hanukkah, I think even though religious context is there, Halloween is a much more of a casual way of celebration. It is not nationally recognized in Canada, the US, or England. Work, school, and organizations still are open and running, but some people don't even enjoy this time of year and skip setting up any decor for it at all, which I also do too. What I am getting at is people find Halloween much more casual and less serious, and because of this, unlike other holidays, there's not as many controversy behind it of this reason. I'm sure some exists, but you're not going to hear the level of controversy that you would for a national holiday, if that makes sense. Not to be confused with a holiday celebrated on the same day in Mexico called Dia de los Muertos, or Day of the Dead, but it also has traditionally taken place on the 1st of November and the 2nd, which is completely different, but coincidentally death is involved for both, but for very different reasons. For Day of the Dead, the souls of the dead are believed to return to the world of the living every year at this point of time. There's more to it than that, but that's the nutshell of it. The major idea I really like about Halloween is dressing as characters or figures of horror, however you'd like, as whoever you want. It's the one day as an excuse to dress up in something absolutely bizarre or strange, and people aren't going to judge you for it. I remember dressing up as Michael Myers. I was 13 years old, which was the last year I had gone trick-or-treating with my cousin, who was V for Vendetta. Everyone had thought my costume was creepy, but was awesome at the same time, and was admired for it. Speaking as, I met another person dressed as Michael Myers, much taller than me, and I scared all the small children because they didn't know who I was, but the adults who did get the reference digged it. The best part too is you can wear a mask and people will never know who you actually are. You can make any expression and people will never know your true intention. I guess that's a weird thing to say, but it makes sense. If you're an introverted person like me, it's even better because you can interact with people in a metaphorical way like you would on the internet, behind a mask and as a character. But don't get me wrong, face-to-face interaction is important and is still needed to function in a healthy society. It's not the worst thing in the world and is still an in-person event, even though you're wearing a mask. But just being able to be who you look up to or as a character that you admire has always felt like a very cool idea for me on a holiday and goes beyond just the event itself. I know that a lot of people have parties for Halloween, especially parties for older people, but I never went to these in high school because I didn't fit in. But I would see pictures of them on my feed on Instagram, partly why I deleted the app altogether, but that's a different subject for a different video. At the end of this, what was special about Halloween to me, and the part where I could be biased, was, my birthday was also 4 days before Halloween. So as a kid, sometimes I would have parties, not adult parties, regular parties, birthday parties. On these days, I would invite maybe 9 or 10 of my friends that I knew in elementary school that would hang out with me at a bounce house place or some fun activity. It didn't always go well, and in fact, I had one of my friends kicked my other friend in the nuts. So after reconsidering mixing chemistry that didn't mix well from friends, even though they got along for me, I didn't have parties like that ever since. You may be wondering how candy became a thing for Halloween. It evolved mainly from the holiday festival of Samhain. It is mainly Celtic pagan, but they would light bonfires for rituals and mark the beginning of the darker half of the year of winter. When I had looked up why candy is given out, it was because of a tradition called going a souling. Children would go door to door in a neighborhood when celebrating Samhain. If your door was knocked, you would be asked to pray for the souls of the children's family members in exchange for goods and gifts. While I did a bit of my own research, I had a friend who was Scottish, and he told me a bit about his culture, and it's honestly pretty interesting. Handing out food for religious donations as a concept wasn't strictly just paganism, however. It did exist in Christianity in different forms and also Hinduism. But I think unlike other holidays, we don't really give Halloween the same level of attention to detail or meaning behind the holiday, if that makes sense. So if we really think about Samhain as the celebration of the end of the summer with harvest, it was more about dedicating, remembering the dead of those that have died, and talking to those spirits through bonfires. It's interesting to see how different cultures interpret death and the importance and the value of life, which can be taken into consideration. The modern person, I think, surrounding pop culture, which most of us at this point are, most likely interprets Halloween as the celebration of horror and fear with association of the supernatural. Creepypastas, for example, are a good example of fiction. These include thousands, if not millions, of books and movies centered around dark and brutal themes, and I'm all for that. The dark and strange and weird and morbid, because we are curious of morbid subjects, but that's what makes it interesting, isn't it? Seeing how these things have evolved over thousands of years shows that the things and routines that we do had a place and purpose far before our time that we don't even think about. I could go into the history of Christmas, Thanksgiving, or non-Christian or pagan-based festivals and holidays, but I guarantee for all of these, if you went back in time, you would not recognize them as they are today, with possibly a few exceptions of some cultures practicing the same rituals for thousands of years. I think why Halloween is my favorite holiday is because it isn't flashy or consumed by media or corporations and government like other ones are. You don't see as many Halloween ads on your computer as you would Christmas ads. Some aspects of it are unsettling and unpleasant too for Halloween, and it isn't something for everyone. It's a cup of tea that is preferred, acquired taste. Even though you do see Halloween items at TJ Maxx in July, it's still not going to be as heavily sold out like Christmas. Christmas before the holiday shopping is awful. Or everything bought before the end of the month, etc. I could be wrong, but the impression I usually get is that it is not seen as important as other holidays such as Christmas. Overall, doing my research for this video, I found its origins pretty badass and just made it more interesting to me finding out why everything is the way it is. I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you want to find out about a Minecraft knockoff, check out this next video here. I will see you all later. See ya.